This is Nibiri. He's a Egyptian noble that was buried in the Valley of the Queens. Now, not Valley of the Kings, but Valley of the Queens. And this does signify that he is an extreme noble for the area and somebody who was prominent. And they've done a recreation on his face where they do the clay modeling, and you take a forensic scientist and recreate the look of somebody's face. And whenever they did this, of course, the Afrocentric community that, of course, thinks that blacks were Egyptian were crazy about it because it showed a white person and more of a pale person and not a negroid. And me looking at it versus the information too makes me call bullshit on the whole thing too. Not on the whole thing, but just on the representation somewhat in general, and it needs to be relooked at slightly. Here's an example of what I'm talking about. If you look at his nose here, it's fairly wide. Not giant, but it's fairly wide. It's no big schnoz, it's no like a ra-cha-cha-cha-cha. It's no penguin's nose or anything like that, but it does have a hook to it. And you can see where the bone comes out here and then it hooks down. And look how prominent his jaw is, right? You can see how strength and prominent jaw he has. Just light cheekbones. And indeed, it's kind of sunken in a little bit. And the width of his nose here is only about half the width of his mouth. And indeed, that's some type of golden rule that people usually have on Caucasian type of art. And so you see things like this. And of course, his lips look extremely thin too, right? Very aquiline nose. So let's look at more of this, because it's quite revealing whenever you look into it and what they've done to this. Now again, he was buried in the Valley of Queens, which is not far from Cairo itself, and they found a lot of dignitaries there. And he appears to have suffered from some type of dental malady, abscesses in a few of his teeth, and perhaps gun disease like gingivitis real bad. They note that. But then you look at the skulls here, and you can see how he has a Caucasoid skull, a slit in his nose, and how it doesn't look too much different from the Jebel Irhoud skulls that they found from northern Africa, right around the Mediterranean, from 315,000 years ago. It fits under that morphology, a little bit less of a brow ridge though, and that seems to fit well within it. And you look at these, Egyptian mummies here, and they're clearly of Caucasoid stock. In fact, the guy on the left looks like Caesar, perhaps, and the guy on the right looks like some boy band dude with his curly little brown hair and stuff, auburnish hair. But here is the depiction they have of him and his mouth, and the way that it actually kind of looks are the portrayal they're going to give it. And they say he's got a prominent nose, wide jaw, straight eyebrows, moderately thick lips, all within ranges of modern Egyptians. And then they depict him out to look like this. Can I get that to come back right? So here's the depiction that they're wanting to go with, and you can see that Roman hooked nose that he kind of has onto him, and slightly, just a huge nose that's on him. But whenever you look at the forensic data like they have over here and the lines that they give for it, it doesn't show to be something like that. And this is the depiction they give of him, if I can. So this is the depiction that they give of him, and you can see that wide nose, and his nose seems to be as wide as his mouth in this picture. I mean, it really is, and just strange. So they give him that Yul Brynner type look, and black people were crazy about this because they're like, oh, he's white, and he should be black. Well, if you're looking at the data and stuff onto him, he is going to have this Romanesque hooked nose, but it really shouldn't be as wide as his mouth is here on the picture. Whenever you look at the skull data like this right here, you can plainly tell that the nose is this width here. And then when you redo his face, somehow it would be twice that size, 1.8 times that size in width. Doesn't make sense. They kind of have his mouth about right, I guess. In fact, his mouth could be a little bit wider, couldn't it? And they show him to be, perhaps fat. Here, he's very healthy cheeked and, a little chubby and fat kind of looking. And you look here, and there's no sign of him being fat at this point. In fact, his sucked in cheeks. Of course, he's a mummy, but at the same time, you have a chance of looking at these, and it shows, I call foul play even on the width of the nose here, because you look at the width here, and all I have to do is go that much, and you come over here, and that same amount, I can't go, it's 1.5 times, 2 times the amount of it. So I disagree with this. Now, they say the embalming technique looks like it was the same thing that was done with Yuya and Thuya, the two people that are, very blonde-haired mummies with their curly hair. And it does look like that type of application done to them. Indeed, they're not all done the exact same way. But this depiction right here isn't necessarily the valid depiction of him, I don't think. I think his nose would be maybe a big hooked pointed nose, but it would be thinner on the nostrils here. And by being so, it would definitely have that Romanesque almost look to it. You can see it as it plainly sits now with the way his ridge sets across his nose too. So anyhow, just wanted to give a point up onto that. This is 18th dynasty, Nibiri, and he was known as Master of the Stables, buried in the Queen's Cemetery in the Valley of Queens. And this is the way he looked, albeit with a thinner nose. Peace.